the early 1950s.
What do English law have to do with America? I thought America broke from the British rule.
Yeah, well, there were a lot of laws here.
Huh?
There were also a lot of laws here that punished people for being witches. In fact, we, Lady Passion and I, just maybe about 10 years ago, overturned one here that banned divination and fortune telling.
Okay, so you deal with divination.
Excuse me?
Okay, so you deal with
in England, no, the law in England just allowed a man named Gerald Gardner to come forth and say, I'm a witch and I'm a member of a coven that goes way back, and here's its traditions, here's what they do, and I'm going to publicize it because I'm afraid these people are getting old and they're going to die out if there's not some new folks that find out about what a wonderful, thing this is. Just to put it in a nutshell, and that kind of, because he was very public about it, opened a museum and everything of witchcraft. People started being more open here in America, and then with the rise of feminism in the 70s, that really opened it up because it really does revolve around priestesses. It's a very much, there are plenty of men in the craft like me, but it's really kind of fundamentally centered on priestesses. And
what, Steve, I'm a little perplexed, I'm a little confused.
Yeah, I'm jumping around.
Aren't you Jewish? Aren't you Jewish, sir?
Am I Jewish?
Yeah, you're Jewish, right?
No, my great grandfather was a Spanish Jew, but that's about as far as it goes.
But so he didn't pass the religion to you as far as following.
No, in fact, he tried to hide it because in those days they were Spanish Jews were equated with gypsies and persecuted also. So no.
Okay, all right. But you are quote unquote a Jewish man.
Only on one side and very far back, but no, I don't practice Judaism.
Okay, all right. Another thing I need to ask you on a few things you said earlier. All right.
Mhm.
All right. Do you believe in Satan?
No, unless you mean Al Pacino in a business suit at the top of a.
No. I'm not joking here. I'm saying. Because
I'm only half joking there because I believe that Satan
what I'm asking you is because there's many gods that's being worshipped here. You said you deal with polytheism.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm asking you is, do you believe that there's a bad spirit out there that's over bad spirits?
No, only in the hearts of humans who have divided their mind from their heart.
Okay.
It's we believe that Satan is a Christian and Muslim deity or being, but he's not. And we also see that many of the in particular, one of the main gods that have been worshipped by pagans since time immemorial is the horn god, who's associated with nature, and with like you see him in Minoan art and ancient Hindu art.
Like God Pan?
Pan, exactly. Pan, Dionysus.
So,
yeah. And
so that's the equivalent. Is Pan the equivalent of the Bible Satan?
Well, not really, but the Christians, because the worship of Pan was so popular, they attached Satan, their concept of Satan, to it. So it's kind of like saying, because you're in favor of universal health care, you're a communist. They just kind of started tarring people with that and persecuting them for worshiping that god, which they called Satan because they considered him a rival with their one god.
Well, let me ask you this, because it's well established already that you believe in spirits.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So you believe in spirits. You pray to spirits. You pray to gods.
Well, we pray to gods and sometimes interact.
What is the origin of the gods you pray to? Where did they come from? What is their origin?
Well, that's a good mystery. I mean, like I said earlier, Wiccans don't have any problem with science, except in one respect. You know, when scientists claim there's no such thing as spirit, we beg to differ. But as far as, like, for instance, the origin of the universe being in a Big Bang 13.7 billion years ago, we don't have a problem with that. And if that's where everything comes from in this particular cycle, then maybe, just maybe, that's where the gods come too.
No, but what I'm asking you is, so the answer is no. You don't know the origin of the gods that you're praying to.
Well, if you mean the ultimate origin, I think that it's extremely arrogant of any human to claim, and I don't mean any offense to anyone out there or to you.
Well,
but
no, just speak candidly.
I think it's extremely arrogant of any of us humans to claim to know the origin of the gods, or to know even what the one is. You know, the one that is the source of all.
I understand. It may be, but I'm just asking you, as far as you're concerned, we're talking about paganism right now. I'm just asking you.
We find that
most pagans don't know the origin of their gods that they follow.
We find it's more important to focus on our relationship with them and what they do for us, what we do with them, and it's surprisingly, I know people have this notion, this whole Hollywood notion of, you know, pagans signing pacts with demonic spirits in order to get rich, you know, but it's absolutely nothing.
Well, so the reason I'm asking you, sir, and that's why I asked you the question. A few more questions I have to ask you based on what you said earlier.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know for sure the origin of the gods you follow, how can you say for sure Satan is not one of them?
Well, how can you say for sure what the origin of Satan is? I mean,
so let's leave it open then. Since
you know what one book tells you. One book which will assert was written by God, but how do you know that for sure? Well, you have faith,
I can
right?
answer that question for you. But I want to just talk about paganism, the fact that if you don't know the origin, it's a possibility that one of those gods could be Satan.
I've never encountered any deity that even comes close to Satan. I have encountered a lot of people.
Okay, well, let's talk about the enlightened one.
Pretty evil, but
let's talk about the enlightened one, the one that brings the enlightenment.
Well, we don't necessarily think there's just one. We think that that there's enlightenment to be found through many channels and through many people, and that's part of the problem we see with monotheism, is that it always claims there's only one, and that promotes the idea that there's a guru who will teach you everything, who's perfect, the idea that there's a prophet who's the only prophet that had the truth, and anybody who disagrees with him needs to have his head cut off, you know, kind of like the Islamists.
Okay, all right. So let's make this clear, though.
Uh-huh.
All right. Just so we can go to the next one, because I don't want to stay on this forever. I just want to speak to you about it, because I've asked people these questions. Let's go to the next one here. All right?
Sure. Okay.
Okay, because you were talking about the horn god, which is a man god.
Well,
which is your main god. He's your main god, the horn god, correct?
He's one of them, yeah. Most witches would say yes. They're he and the goddess, which they might call the great goddess or the great mother. That these are their two main deities, and that's certainly true for our coven and in our personal experience too.
Okay. Another question I have: would you relate that, or will some other cultures relate these same gods to what the Roman Catholic Church can call Jesus and Mary today?
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because they do tend to have that kind of a balance between them. You know, one of them being kind of a bringer of change, of death of the old way and birth of a new way. and the other being very compassionate and loving and nurturing, and and kind of like a father and a mother, like the ideal father and mother.
And I'm saying this is because I was reading this story called The Two Babylons.
Uh-huh.
And the Roman nuns were perplexed when they went to certain polytheism countries who have never heard of Christianity. And when they went to the country, it was kind of a smooth transition with conversion, because the only thing they had to do was tell them that the name of your child and mother is the same as our Jesus and Mary. Like it was almost the same story that they would discuss in Christianity.
Right.
But it was ancient pagan gods.
That goes both ways. It means that Jesus and Mary are also the same as in that sense.
Okay. Now, I'm going to put this out there strictly for the listeners to let people know that we're Hebrews, and we don't deal with Jesus and Mary. We deal with Yeshua and Ahiah, and I'm going to go with the difference in that real quick. But I really want to talk about this encounter you had with the horn god Pan. His name is Pan.
Let me draw one distinction, though, real quick before we go off of that, is that we don't think of them as having been human. In other words, Jesus and Mary were, according to the Bible, were humans before, at least, even if sent by God, still human. And but we don't think of our, most of the time, I mean, not all cultures or not all gods are this way, but in that particular case, we don't equate them with human beings.
Okay. And the reason I'm asking you, Steve, and to show you that the same gods are synonymous with paganism is within Christianity. They just don't want to deal with the reality of it.
Well, I agree, but that doesn't mean they're bad. It doesn't mean they're evil. It just means people need to broaden and open up their hearts and minds a little more and accept that truth flows through many, many channels. Not all channels. I agree.
I guess that comes from the perception of what one would perceive as good or bad. But let me ask you. Let me ask you this question, because I really want to hit this point, because I want to run down, and then I'm going to fade off and let you finish talking. You said you had an experience with the horn god.
One in particular, and more, but one that made the most impression on me, I'd say, yes.
I'm saying, did you have a personal experience? Did you see this horn god? Was it a spiritual?
Yes.
You seen him?
Yes, definitely.
So did you do some type of ritual, some type of spell to conjure him?
It was in a ritual specifically to a traditional ritual, specifically to call him down. And he very much came, and he was the most impressive being, great dignity and great age, and he took the form of what I can only call dark light. In other words, like a kind of light that is just not light. Almost. I don't know if this is what the physicists mean by dark energy, but it's like that. And
sort of like the biblical Lucifer.
No. Okay. Even though a lot of traditional witches used to use that name for him, that was just
okay.
Learned from the Christians. Nothing like anything I've ever seen in the book.
There's another question I have for you while you're there. Excuse me, because I'm gonna let you go. But the deity in the spirit of Yahweh. Mm-hmm. There's a book that came to my attention about 6 years ago called The Witch's God. And Yahweh was one of the gods being worshipped or conjured or spoken of in spells under the Wiccans. And I was surprised to see that. Are you familiar with that? The YHWH?
Yeah, I believe I know that book. We might, that was their particular tradition, but I will say this, that the word, the name Yahweh, it does come from what we call in the Goodly Spell book the vowel spectrum.